CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
A cyclist who was airlifted to Victoria General Hospital in critical condition after being hit by a vehicle in Duncan last week has now died of his injuries. He was hit by a pickup truck last Thursday on Moorfield Road in Duncan. Witnesses told police the truck had the right-of-way and that the cyclist made no attempt to stop at the stop sign. Paramedics initially took the man to Cowichan District Hospital. From there, he was flown to Vic General. The cyclist died in the hospital Monday morning. RCMP said there's a good chance that he would still be alive today if he had been wearing a helmet.
It's not apparent whether a helmet would have saved this individual. He had severe head trauma as well as internal injuries suffered as a result of the accident. But it is known that helmets do, in fact, reduce injury in cases of head trauma and also could save your life.
The man's name has not been released. The driver of the truck was not injured in the crash. He will not be charged in the incident. A group of cyclists came crashing down like dominoes in Victoria this morning after slamming into a truck near Beacon Hill Park. It happened at about 7:30 this morning at the park. Police say there were 20 cyclists out for a morning ride, thrown over their handlebars when the driver of the vehicle cut them off while making a left turn.
There was a group of cyclists traveling through the park, and they're going one direction, and the opposite direction there was a truck who attempted to turn left in front of the cyclist, cutting them off. When he did that, the cyclist had no time to react. There was a big group, about 20 of them, that the first two hit the truck. The first one looked pretty bad. He rolled over the hood, and the other one just minor scrapes, but it looked like a really serious collision.
One cyclist was taken to the hospital for x-rays, but no one else was seriously hurt, fortunately. Police say the driver is facing a $167 fine for failing to yield on a left turn. And police officers in the Capital Region had their hands full over the BC Day holiday in what they say was one of their busiest weekends on record, certainly for Vic PD. Officers saw a spike in service calls and were kept busy patrolling as various large events attracted more than 60,000 people downtown. The 911 Communications Center says it received 750 calls over the weekend. That's nearly 4 times the number of calls made this past Canada Day weekend. Vic PD had its hands full policing the city's 150th anniversary party, Symphony Splash, and the Victoria Electronic Music Festival.
We had a number of high-profile public events this weekend, the Victoria Electronic Music Festival and, of course, the Symphony Splash. And we needed about a dozen additional resources called out to deal with the issues around that, particularly with the Electronic Music Festival, because there was a lot of public disorder in terms of drinking and overdoses and disturbances down there.
Vic PD says all of its resources were stretched to the limit, also investigating the suspicious death in Esquimalt Friday, a downtown robbery, impaired drivers, and a report of a bear sighting as well. A Metchosin man could be facing criminal charges after RCMP discovered a cache of modified firearms, some loaded and improperly stored in a house where a member of the Canadian Forces lives. West Shore RCMP seized a dozen guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition after raiding a home on William Head Road. Police found 8 rifles and 4 handguns with modifications such as scopes, lights, and tripods that were found unlocked and not properly stored. Officers also came across dozens of magazines and 3 bulletproof vests.
Firearms were pretty well all over the residence. Under the bed, you had it in the living room, kitchen, in different rooms. There was a safe there, but it was not locked. And then you had some of the firearms, the handguns were actually loaded and with ammunition inside the magazine. So based on all that, when we look at it for the public safety, all the firearms were seized, including the vest, and then we're still ongoing. Our investigation is still continuing.
A member of the Canadian Forces lives at the house that was raided. RCMP say 2 men and 1 woman live at the home. Mounties will soon be sending the guns to a ballistics lab to determine if any of the semi-automatic assault rifles had been modified to operate fully automatic. That's prohibited in Canada. So far, no charges have been laid. And West Shore RCMP are asking for your help tonight investigating a disturbing discovery that happened here at Woody's Lagoon. Officers arrested a man in his 40s after discovering pairs of used women's underwear in his backpack. Lots of them. Police say he had about 20 pairs of panties in his pack. Officers don't know where the underwear came from. They say some appears to be children's, and they're asking you to come forward.
It can have far through region. I'm not sure that individual, how long that individual would have had the undergarments. If they were, they could have been stolen from Vancouver. How I know, who knows where they come from if they were stolen. And we're really interested as well as if anybody knows that they got garments that are missing, is to contact the West Shore CMP.
Mounties say the man has been released without a charge. He does have a record of sexual assault. If you have any information or believe you have missing undergarments, you're asked to contact West Shore RCMP. Veterinarians say the oldest beluga whale at the Vancouver Aquarium most likely died of old age and cancer. Kavna was about 46 years old when she died yesterday. The female beluga arrived at the aquarium in 1976. The vet says Kavna had been in declining health over the last week as fluid and other debris built up in her reproductive system. The aquarium says vets from all over the world came to help her, but in the end, they couldn't save the beluga's life.
We did try some more intensive hormonal therapy, trying to deal with the condition that we sometimes see in dogs called pyometra, or the accumulation of mucopollutant discharge and fluid within the uterus. And she did sort of again respond for that first couple of days. However, on the third day of treatment, she rapidly declined.
The aquarium does point out that Kavna lived a decade and a half longer than other belugas in the wild. She was the whale who inspired the popular children's song Baby Beluga by Salt Spring Island children's musician Rafi. The federal government is reaching out to parents who have to take some time off work to stay at home to care for a critically ill or injured child. Prime Minister Stephen Harper says parents will soon be able to claim extra employment insurance while taking care of a sick youngster. Harper made that announcement during a stop in Vancouver today. Parents will now be able to apply for up to 35 weeks of benefits. That's up from 6 weeks under the current rules. The government says its goal is to offer some financial relief to parents during challenging times when families have to move to receive treatment.
And so they're completely uprooted, and they have to stay for treatment, sometimes from 2 months to 9 months, sometimes up to 2 years while treatment's going on. And they are trying to make their payments at home, and they can't continue their work. And so to get support and to get some form of income while they're going through this, as the bills are increasing and they're keeping their life, and also as they're trying to pay for the medications.
The Prime Minister says the benefits will be available by June of next year, but only parents who have worked at least 600 hours in the previous calendar year can qualify for the additional help for parents. The funding is predicted to help as many as 6,000 families or more in Canada each year. Prime Minister also talked about the Northern Gateway project today. He says it is science, not politics, that will decide the future of the Enbridge pipeline project to run between Alberta and British Columbia. The Prime Minister says the pipeline is of vital interest to both Canada and to BC to get our product to the Asian markets. The Prime Minister sidestepped questions about the feud that has erupted between BC and Alberta over Enbridge, stating that he has spoken with Premier Christy Clark about the issue, but he wouldn't say what was said. One thing that the Prime Minister did make clear is that there will be no discussion about how to divide oil revenue.
I'm not going to get into an argument or a discussion about how we divide hypothetical revenues. The only way that governments can handle controversial projects of this manner is to ensure that things are evaluated on an independent basis scientifically and not simply on political criteria.
Some progress in the discussion.
Premier Christy Clark has said that BC wants a share of oil revenue before the province will back the Enbridge line, which would ship oil from Alberta to Kitimat for overseas export. Good evening. Thank you for being here. We begin this hour with a developing story from Nanaimo at Duke Point, where there has been a fire at the Western Forest Products Mill. Just before 5 tonight, the mill burst into flames, sending plumes of thick gray smoke about 30 meters into the sky. CTV's Scott Cunningham is on the story. He's just back from the scene. He joins us now live in our Nanaimo newsroom with the latest. Scott.
Hudson, from Nanaimo, you first smelt it and then saw it. Plumes of thick black smoke coming from Western Forest Products Duke Point operation. Now, we have since heard from Ron Lepchuk, who is Assistant Fire Chief for Nanaimo Fire. He has told us that it was not a mill fire. It was a conveyor belt rather, that caught on fire. It moves chips away from the mill, that is wood chips, of course. The fire was started there and it was running, so it went down into a large pile of wood chips. Now, that fire burned hot for about 10 to 15 minutes. Fire crews quickly arrived on scene and knocked down the flames and smoke and now have the scene totally under control. Now, Hudson, I can tell you that the mill is not in jeopardy, nor are any humans. Hudson?
CTV's Scott Cunningham reporting live in Nanaimo tonight. Scott, thanks. A father is facing charges tonight after RCMP say he allegedly assaulted the mother of his 2-day-old baby in the maternity ward at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. Officers were called to the maternity ward Saturday after reports of a 27-year-old woman being struck. RCMP say the mother was holding her newborn baby when she was punched in the head by the baby's father. Police say the man then fled the scene.
What happened is that he allegedly arrived. He had been consuming alcohol, and an argument ensued. And while she was holding the baby in her arms, he punched her in the head once. She placed the baby in a nearby bassinet, then pushed him out of the room. Then he fled from the hospital. We located him early Saturday afternoon, and he was taken into custody on charges of assault and breach of probation.
The newborn baby was not hurt. RCMP say the father was prohibited from being around the mother and from consuming alcohol. The 30-year-old from Tofino appeared in court late this afternoon. We'll have more on the story tonight on CTV News at 11.